of the monsters.
Alive.
Surging up from the depths of the sea on a tidal wave of terror to wreak vengeance on mankind.
Godzilla, king of the monsters. It's alive.
A gigantic beast.
Stalking the earth, crushing all before it.
In a cyclonic cavalcade of electrifying horror.
Raging through the streets on a rampage of total destruction.
Godzilla, king of the monsters.
Incredible titan of terror.
Wiping out a city of 6 million in a holocaust of flame.
Jet planes cannot destroy it.
Bombs cannot kill it.
All modern weapons fail.
Is this the end of our civilization?
Can the scientists of the world find a way to stop this creature?
For the answer, see Godzilla, king of the monsters.
You may wish to deny it, but your eyes tell you it's true.
A tale to stun the mind.
More fantastic than any ever written by Jules Verne.
More terrifying than any ever shown on the screen.
Awesome.
Incredible.
Unbelievable.
A story beyond your wildest dreams.
Dynamic violence.
Savage action.
Spectacular thrills.
Godzilla, king of the monsters.
Fantastic beyond comprehension.
Gripping beyond compare.
Astounding beyond belief.
The mightiest monster of them all.
See Godzilla,
king of the monsters.
Welcome back, watchers. I'm Katie Soresit.
And I'm Kelly Appel. I knew it. It must be Godzilla.
That's why we're late, is because it was Godzilla just wreaking havoc on my life and my technology. So here we are.
There were sightings in North Carolina, so you know, and we've seen the way he moves through power lines. We've seen it firsthand.
He fucks shit up. He fucks it up. But yeah, we are back for another week. Second installment of the Cold War series with Godzilla, which I guess is kind of Cold War. It's kind of like fringes of the Cold War, I guess. More in the whole U.S. occupation shit.
I thought it kind of worked because it was like the aftermath of like what Oppenheimer happened.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't necessarily fall right into the Cold War per se, but it's a nice little like pickup from the last episode where that was very heavy. And look what Oppie did. He created dropped these nudes and created this unkillable monster.
This is what he really should be apologizing for, is Godzilla. And not Godzilla wreaking havoc on Japan and the world, but specifically disrupting this ancient being's home and abode.
I don't know about you, but like the ending actually like upsets me. Like it upsets me that they kill Godzilla. And I know that's insane because he's like wreaking havoc, but at the same time, I look at it like bro's chilling in his crib, eeping. And then these motherfuckers drop the oxygen destroyer on him. And it's like...
Which is such a... I'm sure it sounds better. I watched it with the English the English dub.
Yeah.
Did I? No, we watched it with the subtitles.
Yeah.
There's not an English dub. We watched it with the subtitles. Yeah, I don't know that there is. We watched it with the subtitles, and... So I don't know exactly what the term in Japanese for the oxygen destroyer was, but oxygen destroyer just sounds really stupid to me.
Oxygen destroyer.
Oh, that's how they said it, right? the authentic Japanese.
Yeah. Which technically Godzilla is the American translation. The Japanese title, which you'll probably see when is Gojira.
Gojira.
But I don't know, it just bummed me out because I feel like Godzilla's a victim of mankind's crimes, kind of like against humanity.
It's kind of a manifestation of it, which is, it's very interesting because that's definitely like a more, I feel like that can definitely be read into the original, but I feel like was not the original interpretation, but is definitely like a 21st century perspective more, or like late 20th century perspective more, of being like Godzilla's a victim or whatever. Because I think like with the first, the original, it's much more like kind of a symbolism for what the US did to Japan in a way.
That's definitely
both. Yeah.
That's definitely one interpretation for sure of like the symbolism of this film. Another thing is like the scene where the boats, the ships all go missing, kind of like before they know what's going on. That was like a direct kind of shout out to Japan continuing testing.
Right, with the H bombs. Right.
And then the producer, Tanaka, Tomiyuki Tanaka, stated the theme of the film from the beginning was the terror of the bomb. Mankind had created the bomb, and now nature was going to take revenge on mankind. So it is kind of like, definitely there is the element that like, as a result of this creation, like nature is going to revolt. And
yes,
that manifestation is Godzilla. And something I really thought was interesting is like Godzilla easily could have just been like a dinosaur or something, but they needed him to be as powerful as an atomic weapon, or else it kind of like misses the mark of how dangerous these things are. Because he's like virtually unstoppable, and he literally has like fucking atomic breath, which is like, what do you do that with that?
Which is like, what?
And I like George did the shout out to the late 90s Godzilla, which is like canonically shit. Like canonically everyone hates it, which I too saw it in theater. And that's the only one where Godzilla's a girl too.
Oh, right. I forgot that. I think that's the thing, is because I think that's the first Godzilla that I watched. So Same. I think that for a long time I was like, Godzilla's a girl. What are we all talking about?
Yeah, but canonically Godzilla is a
canonically boy. That's correct. That's right.
So this was directed by, and I'm doing my best, fam, Ishiro Honda. I could say that. I know that one.
Yeah, you got it. You got Honda.
Akira Takarada as
Takarada
as Agoda, which is like the love interest of Amiko. Sorry, this is like tiny. Like this is tinier than it needs to be for me.
Zoom in.
Momoko Koichi as Imiko. Oh my god. Akihiko Hirata as the eye patch doctor Shirazawa.
Yeah.
All these people are dead. They don't care. Actually, they're Japanese. They might still be alive. Takashi Shimura as Dr. Yamane, and Fuyuki Makuram as Dr. Tanabe. And you know, basically, we've kind of said it, the long and short of it, but this movie came out 9 years after the bombs dropped, which is fucking crazy to me that they even...
So fast.
Yeah, I'm like, damn, they working hard. And it's a kind of a multi-layered... thank you so much, George, because always fighting for... Me especially, always fighting for my life. Multi-dimensional representation of kind of almost like I would say you could almost suggest that they're kind of, this is my opinion, Godzilla is kind of like a manifestation to almost downplay American power in a way. Like,
yes.
What's more terrorizing than the nuclear bombs themselves is this creature that came from it. Also, okay, you need to go away. Then we have the nature kind of, evolving into something horrific as a result of the nuclear weapons, and then ultimately just like, I don't know, kind of like, I think Eye Patch Doctor says it best at one point, is like, mankind is weak. Like, we're inherently weak creatures. We're always going to continue making, like, killing, bomby things. Like, that's why he doesn't want to use the oxygen destroyer, is because he fears the repercussion of making another weapon.
Yes, yeah.
So, I'm guessing this was your first time watching it?
I think this was my first time watching the original, at least as far as, like, I can remember. I know I've seen, like, it's kind of like, how do you not see clips of this movie?
He's very iconic.
Yeah, he's very iconic. Yeah, my first time watching it, and it's no mystery on this podcast that you and I don't love old films all the time, but I feel like this was an enjoyable old film in that it was, like, pretty quick paced, and then the practical effects are actually, like, very impressive for the 50s.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a 72-year-old movie.
Yeah, it's really well done practical effects, and, like, Godzilla is just a cutie pie, so of course I love a cutie pie monster destroying everything. But yeah, I think this was I'm definitely, I know that you were a big Godzilla girl, and so this made me go like, oh, I should go down a Godzilla rabbit hole, shouldn't I? Like,
I definitely wouldn't say watch every Godzilla movie, because there's a
lot. There's so many.
Because he's evolved so much, like, as a cultural like part of Japan at this point. But like, this film is, I think, really, really great. I think it's such a good symbolism. I think that I agree. I think the pace is great. And I'm so glad you brought up the practical effects, because there's so much heart, and, like, it's like, obviously it's a dude in a big costume, and he's probably quite uncomfortable.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, I feel like it's not as obvious as other dudes in costumes.
Well,
honestly, so it's, like, pretty good for a dude in a costume.
I appreciate it. And then I think, too, of all the tiny little sets they had to make in order to have the scenes of him, like, destroying the cities and stuff. And I'm like, dude, that's so fucking dope, because if it was just now, it would just be some shit CGI, and, like... And it would be really dark, and you'd barely be able to see anything. And this is only dark because it's in black and white. Like, they can't really do that. And Godzilla has such an interesting, like, arc as a character, because, like, for this film, and this is the main movie we're talking about, but, like, just, like, as a cultural, like, pop culture character, who Godzilla is. He is called the King of Monsters, and that's why they've just been able to just churn out so many Godzilla films, because it's like, because we have Kong over here, and so there's been like Godzilla versus Kong, and things like that. But Godzilla really starts out as kind of like this terror of nuclear weapons. Like, this is, and it is that, I was thinking too while I was watching it, that scene after Godzilla, like, terrorizes the city, and, he really is, like, the news reporters are up on the radio station tower, and they're like, he's coming, wow, he's really strong, okay, bye!
Yeah, we're probably not gonna make it. It's like, guy.
It's like, why'd you stay up there, bro? But then the aftermath of that, and when Emiko's, like, working with all the survivors, and they're testing the kids for radiation, it's like, that is clearly, like, a direct, like, to me, very much felt like a direct, like, probably what it was like for the survivors after the bombs dropped.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that essay that I grabbed, that read half of it and then was like,
it was a lot. I skimmed it, and it was a lot.
There was one that's a 20-page, and that I read half of, and then one that was 43 pages that I downloaded. So, but this one was Godzilla and the Japanese after World War II, from a scapegoat of the Americans to a savior of the Japanese. And so what I think it's a woman. No, probably a guy. Yoshiko Ikeda is the author at Ritsumeikan University. He argued that basically Godzilla in the first film is more of a scapegoat for Americans, because basically symbolizes the destruction of what Americans did, because at this time of U.S. occupation in Japan, there was like censorship codes that the U.S. was imposing on Japanese film. And apparently, like, I think what I read was like they had like a couple iterations that they had to like peel back on because it was like too obviously criticizing the US or something. Yeah, a little too on the nose. And so I think it is like you said, like, it's very interesting that Godzilla both represents, like, yes, the destruction and horror that the atomic bomb dropped by the US brought onto Japan and in the world, but then also is a symbol of like nature's revolt against the use of nuclear weapons and technology in war, which I think was interesting because this article also focused on this idea of like Godzilla also being like in these films being a way of kind of exploring the anxieties in Japan around like this new rising dependence on technology for economic growth, but also still trying to maintain like tradition in Japan. And so it's interesting that with that trajectory, it's kind of like Godzilla at first is this like chaos of terror, which I think could be that anxiety. And he represents both nature, ancient Earth, as well as technology with his atomic breath and everything, but then eventually becomes this like symbol and protector of Japan that still embodies both things. As it's like, as Japanese culture finds the balance between like tradition and advancement in technology, they also come to peace with Godzilla and what Godzilla symbolizes for them.
Well, those are great points. And I think, from a cultural, like a pop culture standpoint, it's like Godzilla's fucking cool. Like, exactly. Yeah, he's really destructive, but he's fucking dope. And that's like kind of the problem. So like in this 1954 film, he's absolutely like an enemy of mankind. Like, is he valid? Absolutely. Because he would have never manifested had, bombs not been happening. But eventually, actually only 10 years later, he does become a helper of humanity. But it takes a feminine, literally like a universal goddess. Sorry, I'm not overplaying her character. That's literally what she is.
She is the queen, Mothra.
So in Godzilla, or it's not even called Godzilla, it's called Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, 1964, where the film actually starts with Ghidorah. He's coming from space, and he's like this golden, what are they called? Like the Hydras, where they have the multiple heads. That's basically what he is, but gold. And then you have Godzilla and Rodon's basically, he's a pterodactyl, essentially. And they're just fighting. And so, but Mothra is a really interesting character too, because she's the only, for sure, that I'm aware of, female monster in the MonsterVerse, if you will. In
the MonsterVerse, if you will.
But also what's interesting about Mothra is she is eternal, so she can't die either, but she does. It's just that she continuously reproduces herself. And so she never truly dies. So in this film, I think it might have been the movie before where it was Godzilla versus Mothra, which Mothra did technically beat Godzilla. Just want to throw that out there. She ends up having twins. Pretty much as soon as her larva develop or like hatch, she dies. That's kind of just like how it goes. And it's very sad. It's very sad. There's the Mothra twins, and they sing their little Mothra song. It's very cool. So in this film, the surviving larva, because it's only one that ends up surviving, she's like, you guys have to stop fighting. She's like this three-headed monster is coming and we have to work together. And that's the first time where it's literally, I really recommend this movie because it's like, it's comical because you literally see Mothra being like, you guys, like, they don't speak, but she's like,
right. I've been wondering, like, how does this go the whole time?
But you can tell in the body language, like, you can tell in the body language. And Godzilla's
flapping.
He's kind of like, no, she's not even flapping. She's a little brown worm. She looks like a turd in this.
She's a worm. Oh
yeah, because she's still in a larval state. So she's literally like, and they're kind of like, like, I don't want to listen. Fuck humans. And you kind of get this like interpretation where she's like, because she is the saint of humanity. Like, Mothra has always been canonically good. Unlike my evil kitty who's behind my monitor. I was gonna say,
now. I saw Mizu creep out from behind a wall or the door back there, and I was like, he's just gonna cause trouble. I just know Mimi is.
Mimi has a very Godzilla-esque face because he has like a little cat face, in my opinion.
Yeah, so, he does. Yeah, it's very round.
He has like rounded lips. And not until Mothra basically like sets these boys straight does Godzilla actually become a defender of humanity. And then it kind of goes like, he's generally a good guy, but it's more that he's about like being badass and fighting other monsters. From the 60s
and
onwards.
Don't piss him off.
Don't pee him off.
Don't pee him
There's
off.
so many great things in those films because it's like, okay. It's just like the guy in a costume, like clearly like not being able to move his arms and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to completely glaze over the American version of the film till we finally get to Shin Godzilla, which is my personal favorite. Okay, you're being mean, kitty.
Get out of here, Mimi.
Which came out in 2016. So that came out 62 years after. I'm like, I can do math, I swear. 62 years after the original, where we kind of go back finally to this narrative of Godzilla's not. Hi, Jade. Hi, Rio. That Godzilla's not a defender of humanity at all. But what they did really excellently is that he's not really a tyranny on humanity either. He's 100% like just a victim that's in pain and suffering. And as a result of his pain and suffering, he's just kind of like destroying stuff because he's just like, and they just like, let's blast him. And he's like, no, I'm like, ouch. like, please. Like, cause you have to think you're this like irradiated lizard. You know, like, I can't imagine that that's comfortable.
You can't be comfortable when you're just radiating nuclear energy all the time.
No, and I sent you a link of the song, but they have this song that's literally, like, the lyrics are just, like, I'm in pain. Like, please fucking kill me.
The lyrics were, like, really on the nose about the suffering. But
like, I'm suffering, please kill me, but I can't die. And I don't think he technically dies in that film. I think, like, at most they can kind of, like, freeze him. They definitely suggest he's not like dead. So it is interesting how like pop culturally it's like he's supposed to be a lesson, but then they're kind of like, well, he's like really dope though.
He's also so fucking cool. Well, it's like, it's interesting because in this essay they quote this one like it seems like a literary theorist that basically talks about like this idea of like a formula for Godzilla, but like formula can be applied to like any kind of art form, but specifically like could be interchangeable with like genre, or so it's like if you think of like this genre of the Godzilla film or like Godzilla as a film itself because of like how many movies there are. It talks about how like it says a formula is created and restricted by its own context or culture, and in turn it has some sort of influence on the culture, but then culture also influences the formula. So it says like the process through which formulas develop, change, and give way to other formulas is a kind of cultural evolution with survival through audience selection. So it's like literally this idea of like the Godzilla, there's able to be so many Godzilla movies for so long because it's a franchise that adapts to the culture and what the audience wants to see for this character. So it's like clearly like there was an affinity, like it feels like there was like an affection for Godzilla that grew from the first film, similar to like that older doctor who's like, I want Godzilla to live.
Sorry.
Is Mimi just attacking you?
He just scratched me.
Steven, come get your boy. But so I think that like it's interesting that Godzilla it probably was like just such a like a favored character, but then also this article or this essay talks about the Godzilla versus King Kong movie, specifically being a movie that's like Godzilla as Japan versus King Kong as the US once the occupation was over. And so it seems like that's kind of when Godzilla became more and more as like a representative of the Japanese, and therefore as a character in Japanese cinema, it's now a character that's like, you know, fights for the Japanese, fights for humanity, or can be like a sympathetic character and stuff. And so I think it's very interesting that the movie or that you can watch that trajectory of like as culture shifts in Japan, Godzilla shifts. Like it's very interesting.
I think it's like I really can't think of anything comparable to Godzilla. Kong is probably the closest because he initially was kind of like a terror when he Kong is so fucking old, dog. I ain't watched that shit, but I know he like like they bring this big gorilla over and then he breaks out and then he steals a hot lady and then he's like
classic American man shit.
Just take what he wants. But it kind of sucks that Kong represents America because I think I don't like primates, so it makes me
like that sucks for me.
That sucks for me personally. And I personally dislike. I would actually like in hindsight. I was like when I was watching this and thinking about Shin Godzilla, I was like, "Fuck, we should have just done an episode on Shin Godzilla." But this one actually aligns a little better with everything. But Shin Godzilla is just like so good. It's like so good. And they are doing like kind of remakes that are closer. So there's like Godzilla -1, and that's like basically supposed to be the equivalent of this one. And it's good, but it's no Shin.
It's no Shin.
It's no Shin. Yeah, you should watch Shin Godzilla though. I recommend it. It's really good. It's made by the guy who did Evangelion, that anime. So it has like, and that's a lot of like a big feelings and stuff. And so
that makes sense.
And JoJo.
The score would especially make sense then.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I have to watch Shin Godzilla and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I should at least do that before I come visit in November.
But I mean, back to who we're talking about. It's 54 Godzilla. It is.
Yes.
It is such an interesting thing to, and I hope that you saw this too. But when I think of it in comparison of Oppenheimer, so we have, you know, them kind of like the excitement of developing these weapons, and then once they're actually utilized, like the horror of it. And we see that kind of opposite happening in Godzilla, where it's like they can't figure out how to destroy him. Eye Patch Doctor knows how to, but he doesn't want to release it because he's aware of the repercussions. So you'll actually have a scientist that's like, this is bad. And he basically only tells Amiko and tells her she has to keep it as a secret because he doesn't want it to get out. And tragically, he recognizes that in order for this to never happen again, for the oxygen destroyer to never come into fruition again, he too has to end his life because ripping up his notes is not enough. He has the knowledge, and that I thought that was profoundly powerful because I almost feel like it was kind of like the only way you can kind of stop this stuff is if you're really willing to make that sacrifice of never releasing it into the world. And so it's like you have the opposition of Oppenheimer where they tested it and did this stuff, and it wasn't until after where they really kind of were like, oh, I think this did.
Yeah.
Like,
this is bad. We made something bad. Like, it
right.
did exactly what we said it would do, and it's bad.
And it turns out that's bad.
That's a bad thing. Ooh, okay.
Whereas in the scientists in this one could go, we can learn from those mistakes, but in order to do so, we literally can't ever do anything. And I really do like Amiko's father to the other scientist, which I'm forgetting his name, and I closed the window, so too late. Sorry, old guy,
Yamini,
old guy with like mustache. Yeah. He has a very different scientific goal as well. His goal is not to destroy Godzilla. He wants to study and understand why Godzilla is able to not only withstand the radiation but evolve from it. So it's such an, and I don't know if that's cultural. Like, I don't know. I was wondering if you even thought about this or anything, but it was like, it's so interesting that from like in this film, and again, I don't know if it's cultural, but it's like there's so much less desire to destroy, but there's more desire to understand and kind of like keep close to the chest, where in opposition to Oppenheimer, it was like, yeah, we want to understand, and yeah, we want to make all these things, but we need to test it too to really understand what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Sure, we've done 50 gajillion equations that tells us this is going to be fucking devastating, but let's see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, I think that like it's interesting because I think that so many of like the people of Japan wanted Godzilla to be destroyed, and like the government and stuff were like, how do we destroy this monster? And but it seemed like that was so much out of fear, whereas then Dr. I think it's Yamane wanted to understand it because of that evolution, and it's like, what could this mean for the future of how we understand this atomic weaponry or whatever. But then also Serizawa being like, I think it's so interesting that he was like, I think that this oxygen destroyer could be made. I'm going to figure out how to make it and make it work and all this stuff. And then I'm going to make sure that it never gets used and no one ever knows about it, which to me it's kind of funny that it's like this man of science is like, what is it about like men of science that like need to know things that they know should not be known? Like, it's just like mind your business.
Yeah.
Like, just stop. But
they can't help themselves.
But I think that, you know, it is one of those things where this movie does seem to be saying like this kind of like learned a lesson of like, this is kind of what should have been done with the atomic bomb. I even like wrote in my notes that like what was it, like how like Dr. Serizawa feels this need to like keep the horror of scientific technology and the weakness of human nature like out of the public eye, but Oppenheimer like realizes this, it's like too little too late kind of thing. And so it does feel very like, if I'm always of the mind of like, I feel like men that are really, really smart come up with like really insane inventions or are in positions of power or whatever have to be some level of sociopathic. And that's the only reason why they're able to do these things. And it's why they will always do them with like bad repercussions. And so that's why like Dr. Serizawa can only exist in this fictional world, because only a fictional scientist would create something like this and then kill themselves so that no one else could know how to make it. Like that would never happen in real life. But it is like in this idea of like a moral, like a film where we can have morals in hindsight. It is very like, this is what should have happened. This is how it should have gone. But obviously humans are awful and that's not how it works. And, you know, but at least we have films for this, you know, idyllic world that we could aspire for. But I also think that like it does also mirror the fears around like the government wanting to destroy destroy Godzilla, the public like demanded, like being scared and wanting him dead and all this stuff also mirrors this idea that was so prevalent that we saw in Oppenheimer of like, well, we have to drop the bomb first because if we don't, someone else will. Or like, you know, we have to end the war because just imagine what the Japanese will do if we don't, kind of stuff. And it's just like all this stuff of like, horrible things keep happening throughout history by horrible people because of fear. And like the people not in power support these decisions because of fear. And but if we can just work to understand the monster and work together, then we can defeat King Kong.
And you're so right, because I was thinking the same thing, like when you were talking like the general public in like Japanese government, we're like, we gotta do something about this guy. Which, granted, he is like smashing their city.
They had to do something about him.
Little kids are crying. Like it's
they couldn't like, do nothing.
It's a problem, but so I'm not gonna ignore that.
Godzilla's a problem, I guess.
I mean, I guess he's really cute and like, you know, he was just minding his business.
And originally. He peeks over the mountain, the hill.
Hey. Hi guys. Hey. I'm coming. You can shoot. You can shoot missiles at me, but it's not gonna stop me. But I think that absolutely probably mirrors like the general like anxieties that Americans had too, especially after post Pearl Harbor of like, okay, well, we saw what they did there, so like we definitely need to do something about these.
Yeah, do something. Yes.
Yeah. And we have talked at length about like Godzilla kind of being like the revolt of nature and things like that. But you know, another thing that we haven't really covered is like men in power and scientists developing these weapons of fucking mass destruction and how much it affects the general public. Like in this instance, Godzilla is the weapon, so it's a little bit easier to be like, oh well, this bad monster's evil. But again, if we want to make it no longer simple and it's just the nukes themselves, that is what these men in power making these calls, it's not devastating the governments. The governments are still existing. It's devastating regular people. And just as much as it's devastating nature, it's devastating the bulk of humanity.
And that's such a good point, because in this essay, they pointed out that Godzilla destroyed like basically like neighborhoods, villages, but did not destroy basically the Japan's equivalent of the Empire State Building. Like very specifically did not destroy that building in the movie. And I think that the writer was saying it has to do something with like kind of like a trying to keep like what is it, like the idea that like Japanese like this growing like imperialism and economy can withstand just like this, but it's also pointing to how like, was it I forget what it was called, but it was like when the US did like air raids on like Tokyo and stuff, they would target certain areas, but they would specifically avoid like cultural sites. So it's this idea of like, a lot of the sites that are being like protected are cultural sites or buildings of like commerce, but the sites being destroyed are like communities of people.
And unfortunately, that's the reality of war. The people most affected by war are women and children, and that is 100% fact. That is a historical fact. If you look at any culture which is realistically basically every culture that's experienced war, it's women and children that suffer. There was a horrific war, I forgot which one, in Africa, but basically like all the men in this country were gone because they were fighting. And what ended up happening is they had a bunch of HIV positive men from the other warring nation come over and assault all the women, which thus created an entire generations of HIV positive children as a result of that, because there was no one there to protect them. So then you go back even further and go, what do women and children need protection from? Is men.
Yeah, exactly.
And we can see government as this like larger version of that, literally. Like government at the end of the day is always protecting its own interests, and it's never truly, because I think, if, and unfortunately what's done is done as far as like with the nuclear war and stuff, and now we're still dealing with the repercussions of that 80 years later, of like constant hanging over our head of who's gonna potentially start World War III, and ultimately destroy the world. But the thing is it's like as stated in Oppenheimer, if we don't do it, someone else will. But at the same time, it's like what you really did was just devastate generations of regular people. Like, sure, the Japanese government went like, okay, we did it. Like, we're done.
Like, Jesus Christ,
We'll start making animes with suggestive age.
Will these cartoons girls make you happy? Are you happy now?
But and that's the real tragedy of being a human, is it's like like people like you and me can talk in circles all day and be like, war is bad and we know it's bad, and ultimately it's just for resources and land and like made up entities that we call gods, but at the end of the day, like, that's not gonna change anything, because like for example in our country we have an old man with dementia who's shitting his pants sending us to war, and it's killing young men and women on both sides, and it's devastating no matter what. At the end of the day, people are dying that really shouldn't be dying, and it sucks. It fucking sucks.
And it is just like, World War ended, but immediately going into the Cold War, the whole idea of the Cold War being it's kind of like a more of a political war, but actual wars were still fought, that U.S. soldiers, that Soviet soldiers went to, all in the name of democracy or communism or whatever. But all it is bodies and people being expended for political gains for these men in power. And it's just so funny, because I'm like, after reading the essay, I kept saying to George, like, I kept like talking about, we were talking about like Japan or something, and I was just like, well, in the essay I read on Godzilla, well, if you can track the changes in culture based on the evolution of Godzilla. In film. And so it's like you can literally like kind of see, the change in public opinion around wars, and like this idea of like, I think that like through like in retrospect, looking at the Cold War, and then especially at the turn of the Vietnam War, as you're seeing this idea of like these meaningless wars that American soldiers are being sent off to fight battles that aren't for actual U.S. politics, but are for military gain and leverage and all the other bullshit that the people in power want. But it's like you see kind of this shift in perspective towards these like you see like the bad guys kind of shift in these monster movies from the monsters themselves to like other people in positions of power. And it's like, I think that really goes with the shift of like cultural perspective around like politics and war as time progresses and stuff. And so
you can see that in American pop culture so heavily. Sorry, absolutely. I didn't mean to cut you off, but it just makes me think it's like for so long in American pop culture it was like Russia. Like, I mean, we're going to cover Rocky 4, and it's literally him.
Yeah, don't worry about it. We'll cover Russia, guys.
It's potent, but it's like, you know, it's literally an American fighting like this fucking like Russian fucking Aryan prince. But then you see this shift from the 80s to the 90s and 2000s where it's no longer Russians, it's Middle Eastern looking people. And I say looking people because a lot of the times they weren't even Middle Eastern. No. So it's like you do absolutely. The thing about media is that it is so. It is absolutely pushing an agenda too.
Oh yeah. Like 100%. Absolutely. And that's the whole thing. Is like it's a very like hegemonic relationship where it's like media fuels culture, but culture fuels media, and it's like it's like in a constant state of influencing each other and changing each other. It's just, you know, I feel like the culture usually changes a little bit slower and is a little less quick to know that they're being manipulated, whereas media is like, all right, I get it, you've said they, them enough times, I'll include a non-binary person in this Disney movie. You know, it's like that kind of thing. But like,
all right, with your woke stuff.
All right, your blue hair, I get it. But it's very interesting because I think that like, you know, we're fed so much of like one specific narrative of like. Especially, like, if you even just think of the Cold War, because it was, like, such a propaganda-heavy war. Yeah. And so much of media is really painting a picture of, like, who the villain is and who the other is. But also at this time, there was, at least, like, when I took that communist history course, we watched so many movies that were like from like the 80s and 90s, so it's like the end of the Cold War, the end of the Soviet Union, but it was like, you know, movies made in Russia or made in Bosnia and places like that were like clearly criticizing the government and what the government has done specifically to culture, and kind of how it speaks to like the outside world and Western influences and stuff. So it's just, I don't know, it's just very interesting to watch the trajectory of giant world events and politics in movies like the Godzilla franchise.
Right, but no one can top Godzilla, unfortunately. He's so dope.
Unfortunately, you know, he'll kill us all, as it should be. He's the one that should take us all out and the world. Mercy kill.
With his atomic breath, just went.
yeah. Just let it out.
This is, I mean, I'm obviously a big Godzilla house, and it's funny because you would think that it's really like Steven that turned me onto this stuff, but my mom grew up watching Godzilla movies.
No, you have, because I know you're also a Jurassic Park person, right?
I am a lizard girl.
You're a lizard girl, so it's not at all surprising that you're a Godzilla girl.
So much so, hold on, I gotta grab something.
Hold on, guys. We're getting a little show and tell here. I don't like that Mizu made his way back. He's just lurking and waiting to get back in on this. But how's everyone doing?
So much so that I'm enforcing it on my baby, and that he's going to be a destroyer of sleep.
Perfect. It's so cute.
So cute. It's so big.
I saw that picture you sent. That baby's got a big head.
It's 0 to 3 months though, so that can fit until he's a couple months out. Hopefully.
Yeah. It'll last, and then we'll just turn it into like sew it into a T-shirt or something.
And that's you know, and it is actually kind of funny because Godzilla is such a pop culture icon. There's even children's books like Godzilla.
Cute.
And it is cute, and it's like poetically tragic that something that really does have this super deep meaning has kind of been like bastardized by pop culture in a way because he's just
Yeah.
generally cool. But it's
Yeah.
like, that's why I do think it's important, like, to understand, like, yes, it's cool doing the King of Monsters stuff, it's cool the fighting, but it is important to understand what Godzilla actually represents and, like, kind of the horrors and the atrocities. And it's still so profoundly crazy to me that this movie was made just 9 years after the devastation of the nuclear bombs. It is crazy. Bombs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very interesting and very, I don't know. It's just like, I'm just like imagining like if someone made a movie about like 9/11, but the planes were a monster. Like that would be so insane to do after the US would have an absolute conniption fit about it just 9 years later.
Instead, which I don't know if you watched Zeitgeist, but
I don't think so.
Zeitgeist is very surprised as a millennial that you haven't seen Zeitgeist, but Zeitgeist was made like probably 6 or 7 years after 9/11, and it's the conspiracy theory like anti-government film that basically explains and breaks down like how it was like an inside job.
That's true. We just had a lot of conspiracy theorists come out of it.
We weren't as creative.
We weren't convinced.
Us Americans needed a little more straightforward. We need some guy telling us that there's no way that Fuel Jet would have done this. This was demolition style knockdown. We can't have some lizard terrorizing our New York.
No. It was Bush, an inside job.
Bush didn't know what was going on. Bush was too busy
he was too busy
choking on pretzels. He choked on like 3 pretzels while he was in office.
I remember I choked on pretzels once and you started calling me Bush, and that sucked.
And in hindsight, he wasn't the worst president we've ever had in my lifetime.
Yeah, it's very true. You know, we all feel bad now. Not that bad, but you know.
What is that line where he's like, when he's like at the golf course, he was like, "Watch me hit this pile driver" or whatever, because I don't know anything about golf.
Something like that. No,
I think I'm describing a wrestling move, but watch me hit this pile driver, and he smashes Dick Cheney into the ground.
Honestly, would much rather see that.
That would have been awesome. Fucking dope, because he sucked.
Yeah, Dick Cheney was the actual devil.
Yeah, he was. I think we've beat Godzilla at this point. We're getting big Mothra energy.
Yeah, that's true. Just all we can hope for. But yeah, next week is Doctor Strangelove, so we're going more with the bomb. I have not seen that movie since a high school history course, and I don't remember much of it at all. So,
and you know, I haven't seen it ever.
Yeah. So that will be a pretty much new one for both of us next week, which I know is like, it's like whenever I have had multiple experiences where like a white guy barista will be like, "Oh, I like your tattoo. Look at my tattoo." And it's like a Doctor Strangelove reference. It's kind of odd that I've had that encounter more than once. But I feel like that's a very like, I am an artistic, interesting guy kind of movie to love.
He's like, "Check out my satchel."
Definitely has that energy. Satchel
American
energy.
Spirits. And I like matcha. Like, boy, get out of fucking oil rig and get out of my face. Stop talking to me.
Don't talk to me. Go fight one of these many wars.
Men used to build buildings, and now they're just fighting gay rumors.
And on that note, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Like it. What? All right. He gave us some content. I started talking about him while you were gone. I was like, I don't trust him lurking there. Oh, that's right. Those are wireless. Yeah. That's like Charlie was doing that yesterday because like she kept being annoying. So I was like nudging her and then she'd flick her tail at me and I'd be like, bitch, don't you fucking... Oh, Georgia, see if you can still hear us.